My life shattered right there, standing at the gate in the middle of the crowded terminal, thousands of miles from the only place I'd ever called home. I was staring at the ticket agent, who had the most maddeningly bored expression on her face when she calmly told me, "I'm sorry, sir, but your ticket has been cancelled. There's no seat reserved for you on this flight." My heart didn't just sink, it plummeted, tearing through my chest and landing somewhere in the baggage carousel area. I immediately felt the blood drain from my face, and the ambient airport noise, the announcements, the rolling suitcases, the chattering voices, all faded to a muffled, terrifying static. I must have looked utterly lost because the agent repeated it, slower this time, but with the same cold detachment. Cancelled, my flight home for the first time in 5 years. The one I'd saved every single spare penny for during my entire time studying abroad was gone. And then the real shock hit. I pulled out my phone, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped it, and saw the texts. The first was from my mother. It was succinct, brutal, and utterly without remorse. "Have fun walking home, loser." Followed seconds later by my father's equally crushing message, "Stop acting poor. Take a bus like you should." Their names were right there, black and white on the screen, a digital betrayal that felt like a physical assault. My parents, the people who were supposed to be overjoyed to see me, the people who were supposed to love me, had deliberately ruined my trip home just to spite me, to humiliate me. I just stood there, paralyzed, unable to move, unable to breathe. I was completely stranded, with $40 in my pocket, in a foreign country, watching my plane taxi away. The rage that surged through me in that moment was unlike anything I had ever felt before. It was a cold, pure, crystallizing hatred. I swore right there, looking at those texts, that they would pay for this. They had no idea what they had just unleashed. But tell me, looking at those messages and imagining yourself stranded with nothing, would you have simply walked away and accepted it? Or would you have fought back? Let me take you back to the beginning, to understand why their cruelty was so calculated, so personal. My entire life, I had been the black sheep, the disappointment, the one who didn't fit into the meticulously curated image my parents projected. My father, Richard, was a successful corporate lawyer, polished, stern, and obsessed with appearances. My mother, Eleanor, was a philanthropist socialite, whose warmth was reserved exclusively for her charity boards and her favorite child, my younger sister, Cassandra. Cassandra was everything I wasn't. Conventionally beautiful, effortlessly charming, and destined to marry a man from a wealthy, established family. She was their trophy, and I was the tarnished bronze medal they kept hidden in a dusty box. From the moment I chose to study computer science and move overseas for my degree, a field they considered unworthy, and a location they deemed too far from the family name, I became an threat to their perfect narrative. My father stopped paying my tuition after the first year, telling me to learn the value of hard work, something you clearly lack. I worked 3 part-time jobs and took out student loans to finish my degree. I didn't ask them for a cent, not even for a Christmas card. I was proud of my independence, but they saw it as defiance. They called me poor, trashy, and a failure every chance they got, particularly on the rare obligatory phone calls. They loved to tell me how wonderful Cassandra was doing, how she'd bought a new house, a new car, and how her life was everything mine wasn't, all while I was eating instant noodles for the 5th night in a row. The ticket cancellation wasn't just spite, it was a power play, a twisted attempt to reestablish control. I had been planning this trip for months. I hadn't told them the exact date, only that I was flying back and staying for a few weeks before starting my new high-paying job. I'd used the last of my savings to buy a first-class ticket. Not because I needed the luxury, but because I wanted to prove to them, even just for one flight, that I was successful, that I was the loser. They constantly called me. I'd carefully selected the airline, the route, and had even splurged on an extra seat with a mile upgrade I'd been saving up. The moment I checked the airline's website, The truth became sickeningly clear. The ticket hadn't just been asterisk cancelled asterisk. It had been asterisk changed asterisk. The reservation was now under the name Cassandra J. Asterisk family last name asterisk. And the destination was a luxury spa resort in the Caribbean. My first-class seat had been repurposed for their golden child's spontaneous vacation. They hadn't wanted me home. They wanted my expensive hard-earned seat. It was a meticulous, premeditated theft, and those texts were their celebratory victory lap. I called my best friend, Alex, back home, who listened to my hysterical, tearful explanation. Dude, I'm coming to get you. I have enough miles and some emergency cash. Stay put. He was my lifeline, the only person who believed in me, and he flew out the next day not just to rescue me, but to help me plan the perfect retaliation. We spent the grueling 24-hour flight back brainstorming. I told Alex everything about their obsession with appearances, their constant need for control, and how they used money as a weapon. And then, I remembered the one thing they valued more than money, their carefully constructed reputation. When we landed back in the States, I didn't go to the family home. I stayed with Alex, working remotely for the first 2 weeks of my new job while quietly putting my plan into action. My new job was as a senior programmer for a major financial tech company, something my parents hadn't even bothered to ask about. This was important because it gave me access to tools and knowledge they couldn't possibly fathom. The first part of the plan involved what my dad loved most, his car. Richard's 1970 Ford Mustang, a priceless, immaculately restored classic, was his pride and joy, the centerpiece of every story he ever told. It sat in a special climate-controlled garage at their house, while my parents were out at a fundraiser, a detail I conveniently got from my sister's oversharing on Instagram. I used a spare key I'd kept from years ago to get into the house. I didn't touch the car. I didn't scratch the paint or deflate the tires. I did something far, far worse. I opened the glove compartment, pulled out the pristine original maintenance manual and the car's title, and spent 10 minutes photographing them. Then I replaced everything and left. They never knew I was there. The real act of sabotage was digital. So that's the situation I was in. Stranded, humiliated, and filled with a white-hot need for justice against the two people who were supposed to protect me, but who had chosen instead to treat me like a disposable object. They had stolen my money and my trip home just to make a point. Before I tell you what happened next, what I did with those photos and the terrifyingly comprehensive plan Alex and I put into motion, a plan that involved their deepest, darkest financial secret, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have gone for a simple, childish revenge, or something that would truly, fundamentally alter the landscape of their lives? The climax began 3 weeks later, on the night of the annual Founders Gala, the most important high society event of the year for my parents. This was where my father was expected to be elected as the new chairman of the city's most prestigious historical society, a position he had coveted for decades. It was all about the asterisk climb asterisk, the prestige, the public crowning of his success. My mother, of course, was one of the lead organizers. I was nowhere near the gala. I was sitting in front of my computer, logged into a secure network, a bottle of cheap champagne on my desk. The key to their downfall wasn't the car itself, but its asterisk title asterisk. Using the photos of the car's title and maintenance history, which contained all the correct vehicle identification numbers and engine specifications, I executed the plan. I didn't actually steal the car. I simply and legally changed the registered owner on the state's DMV website, rerouting the registration paperwork to a P.O. box Alex had rented for me. The change took less than 72 hours, perfectly timed to coincide with the gala. Simultaneously, I created an anonymous listing on a popular, high-end classic car auction site. The listing was immaculate, featuring the actual VIN, the detailed photos of the maintenance logs, and an asking price that was slightly below market value for a quick, cash sale. Description: owner relocating unexpectedly. Must sell immediately. Title available upon request for verified buyer. I included a picture of the title I'd doctored to show the new temporary P.O. box address. Within an hour, I had 2 legitimate cash offers for full asking price, a staggering $300,000. I accepted the first offer, directed the buyer to the P.O. box, and waited. The next morning, the buyer, a collector who lived an hour away, paid cash and collected the perfectly legal, notarized title change documents I had mailed to the P.O. box earlier that week. The next thing that happened was a call to a legitimate, insured classic car transport company. The transporter, armed with the new legal title, simply drove to my parents' house, showed the paperwork to the housekeeper, and towed the car away. My parents were completely oblivious, still basking in the glow of the gala. The notification on their phone wouldn't be the final text they'd sent me, but a series of shocking financial alerts. The first came when my dad's bank alerted him to a massive $300,000 cash deposit into an old dormant savings account I knew they used for side projects. The second alert came from the county assessor's office, informing them that ownership of the 1970 Mustang had been legally transferred. My father, Richard, had just sold his precious car. The car they loved so much was gone, and the cash was sitting in a bank account that I, and only I, had access to via a long-forgotten mobile login, which I promptly changed, locking them out completely. I waited until they called. It was my mother. Her voice wasn't the usual cold, superior drawl. It was a frantic, terrified shriek. "What have you done? Where is the Mustang? Richard is having a heart attack." I let her scream for a full minute before I calmly interrupted. "Oh, the car. Didn't you get the memo, Mom? It was acting poor. I thought you should take a bus like you should, so I sold your car to buy one for me. Think of it as a belated, necessary act of self-reliance, paid for by the golden goose." I hung up before she could respond and immediately transferred the entire $300,000 to my own investment account, along with the original amount I had paid for my now canceled plane ticket. The aftermath was everything I had hoped for and more. My father couldn't report the car stolen because he technically had sold it, his signature forged perfectly onto the title transfer, a digital ghost of his own making. The money was untraceable to me, thanks to my new job's expertise. Embarrassment was the real kicker. My father's election to chairman was mysteriously delayed. The whispers started. Why did Richard sell his most prized possession? Is he in financial trouble? Are the rumors of his company's bankruptcy true? Their perfectly polished facade cracked and then shattered. Cassandra's resort trip was canceled, the ticket money refunded, as my parents scrambled to cover the financial holes I'd created and quell the social firestorm. The look on their faces, the sheer, unadulterated shock and fear. When they finally realized that the loser they stranded at the airport had the power to dismantle their entire petty world, was a masterpiece of poetic justice I'll never forget. They tried to sue, to threaten, to beg, but I simply sent them a copy of my old texts. "Have fun walking home, loser," with a reply of my own. I bought a house instead. Thanks for the down payment, so there it is. The plane ticket was canceled, the texts were sent, and the car was sold. My life is better, cleaner, and most importantly, free of their toxic control. I used the money for a down payment on a small condo, and I'm thriving in my new job. The final lesson I took from this entire horrifying ordeal is simple. Never underestimate the resolve of the ones you constantly push down. You treat people like dirt eventually. They grow into something stronger, something that can move mountains. Or, in my case, classic cars. Thank you all for listening to my story. Like this video right now if you were on my side and think they got exactly what they deserved. Subscribe to the channel for more shocking stories from the dark corners of the internet. And make sure to share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section below. I read every single one. I'll see you all in the next story.